Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk. Time for the show.
For me, it's like I've never. It's like it's a bit like a therapy, like because I've never had like to actually talk about all this stuff and like having all these experiences, which are quite, which are just my experiences for me, and like obviously like because I've I kind of distanced myself from everything and everyone, so it became like quite insular, and it's only since meeting my partner that like it's sort of like hitting a reset button and then coming back the other way. And actually getting back to being like who I really am, you know what I mean? Minus all the damage.
well, let's get into it there then. So when we were ending the last, let's call it episode, basically you just talked about that you'd gone into this 3 years of self-destruct, let's say. Yeah. What was it that got you out of this long period then?
So I do remember that, like, before I was chatting about how, like, I felt like I'd broken my friendships and stuff like that. There was two instrumental things at that time which, like, helped me to get by or whatever. And that was Chris. And Chris is, like, he's the only person... Chris Drury, the artist for Fingathing. Yeah. So he's... the only person actually that I was going and sharing this stuff with. He was kind of, I guess, like, because I'd go around and he had this family life, with his partner Laura, and like they had like their kid Neve, and like it was something at that time where I was so lost that I craved it, so I would regularly like just kind of sort myself out and go and knock on theirs at sort of tea time or whatever, and go and hang out with them just for a little bit to just kind of like have like a bit of normality to my day, because everything else that I was doing was not normal. Do you know what I mean? And it was like and it was an ongoing thing, and like it would be so inconvenient at times, and they would always open the door and always let me come and just sit there and and just kind of join in, or just like whatever, I don't know, sometimes like have tea or whatever, but always be welcoming to me. And then also after like this supposed year that I'd taken off or whatever, like me and Sneak had like a little bit of distance, and he was like, do you want to come and visit? Do you want to come to Bill? I'm like, really? Like, because I just thought I'd messed everything up hard, and I did. I went and visited, and it was just like, it was so, it was just like, like a point. It was like not like a lifeline, but that's how it felt to me personally. I know if I say lifeline, like, as a term, people will be like, oh yeah, whatever, but I genuinely mean it, like, because I'd felt that I'd lost all like my self-esteem, and all this stuff was happening. It hadn't lost it at that point, but it was all getting chipped away, when I was doing nothing. That's not fair or right. It's not that I wasn't doing anything. It was kind of like at this point, it was like, if I did have these things, which I now know that I have, like anxiety and depression, or like, with the ADHD and stuff, at this point in my life, I'm alone, with those things. And unfortunately, it makes your biggest enemy is yourself. And you develop this other, and, like everybody has like that internal voice. My internal voice was just, it wasn't nice, and it was just like, I was just craving things which just were like quick fixes, like to to the ego and stuff. Unfortunately, like, you know, it was just like that was the path that I'd started taking, you know, which at the beginning I thought was freedom, and it was actually the total opposite. It's like in mental incarceration, because I only have myself to answer to. So I'm kind of, you know, like kind of doing this stuff which I know is like naughty, and I'm doing it anyway, you know, like, and all this shit. And I went over to see Sneak, and I don't know, it's just kind of like, it was just like a reconnection of like, no, we are still like best friends, you know, we are still practically family, like how I saw it. But I was, these unfortunate things, you know, had got to a point where you have to make a call. Somebody has to make a decision, or somebody has to, you know, and that whole thing about wanting to take some time out, it was just me trying to take the reins on something, you know. And I think in doing that, I did take the reins. But the fallout of that, I had no idea, you know, the seismic sort of rupture that would just start in my life. And like, you know, like with any kind of rupture, it just grows and spreads, and that's what was happening. But Sneak. Anyway, I went over to Berlin and I met his friends. He'd kind of gone, and he started his own new life, you know, kind of with his partner, and he was finding his own way. And I think we all needed to do that, Chris included, you know. But I think my and Sneak's decisions of what we chose to do were much more extreme, much more kind of die hard. I think Chris craved like the simple. He just wanted to have a job and earn some money and be able to pay his way like that, instead of like hand to mouth. And you know, when you're a musician or you're an artist, like, kids, it's real. Most of us are starving, you know, like when you're in that time, you know, it's just like, I was so skint, and I got chucked off Coda, like Fingathing. It was like there was no longer activity, but I was still kind of doing DJing, and I kind of decided to do this project where I was like, oh, I'm going to be more myself than ever, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be Parkatron, do this thing, and I started making all this shit. I was just so lost, you know, but I was just trying to find like the next thing, so kind of doing that. And
what sort of gigs were you getting?
Well, I was still kind of doing. I was still doing like DJ stuff with Coda, which, to be honest, like, they were so few and far between. I couldn't make a living from it. But you know, I only have myself to answer for, so it's not about blame or trying to attribute anything. I'm just going to be 100% honest and real about that time. And like, it was like I didn't have all the faculties required, you know, like in this day and age where you see like DJs and, you know, they're staring right into the screen, and you've got like your online persona, and your hands move when you do, oh yeah, look at this, and you're doing all the fucking stereotype shit that everybody else does. That's not me, you know. And
that's a whole big conversation. Like, as a DJ in this day and age, you do need to be able to market yourself, and as a creative, it's kind of like, how much time do you spend refining your craft, practicing, creating, and how much of your time do you spend marketing? You know, there's going to be a lot of very talented DJs that haven't gotten to a certain level because they didn't want to put that time into the marketing bit of it.
What I would say to that is, if you love it, do it because you love it. Do it for that love. Will never come back in any form of like money or like outside, like it's just the process. It's just doing something because you love it. Like that is your reward. That, do you know what I mean?
But if you want that to put food on your table, there's the sacrifices involved as well. There's the two different ways. Do you want to do it because you love it, or do you want to do it to have a roof?
I'm not interested in making those sacrifices. If I've got to fucking dance on a pole for 90 seconds because it fits in with some fucking app or whatever, then if that's what it's like, let's face it, everybody, I respect what you're saying, like, everybody wants to put food on the table, and, you know, I'd say go local, you know what I mean? Like, do it in your surrounding area where, like, you have a little bit more, like, this thing with everybody going online and doing this thing is, it's brilliant, but it is also like, if you look back in history at like a lot of artists and like some of the biggest ones, unfortunately they didn't get their flowers at the time. They did it because that's what they were, that's who they were, and that, I think that's the thing. I don't think I'm like a DJ like that. I'm an artist. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I've got some fucking integrity, and it's like, yeah, like my relationship with Coda didn't go well because like I'm not making like these tapes and doing all these things, and I'm not going out there, and do you know what I mean? Right. I'm not playing the game. Everybody calls it the game. It is. There's a big part of it that is a game, but your art doesn't have to be a game. Maybe as a DJ, but I don't DJ out. It's like no one wants to listen to fucking Conan and like a tiny bit of Slipknot with like a Nas acapella, or, you know what I mean, or the stuff that I like, and you can only go out and play your favorite records so many times, and I don't know. I'm talking. This is my old perspective. I'm trying to, how talk about how like now I'm much more of an open book to everything, and I'm trying to do like what I'm trying to do what's required, or I want to be like like I want to be a part of this thing. But I've realized after all this time now that it's all about the community. It's
well, let's come back to that in a bit then, because I think we touched on that the other day. I've just taken you miles off. So where you were before we kind of went off there, you were saying about how you'd gone over to Berlin, and you and Sneak had kind of had to go a bit more extreme than Chris to kind of find yourselves. So from there then, what was it at that point that started the ball rolling with you kind of finding your way again?
So the biggest, there was like two things. Like Sneak basically was putting together a UK tour of him and a drummer for his solo album. And I was like, do you need a roadie? Like, I'll come with you. I'd love to come with you just to hear him play, to be honest. And just, and like, just go and have that connection with him again. And even though it would be as to help him do his thing. Anyway, I went to Big Chill, which was this one. And I was with like Mr. Scruff's crew, like Andrea, his partner, and they're all like, old friends and that, so it was really nice to just go and kind of be out of my like really destructive environment where I was my own worst enemy, and just be in something that was really nice, and like and see Sneak and have some purpose to actually go out, because I wasn't going out anywhere, I wasn't seeing anyone or going to pubs and that. I was doing a little music thing, but it was restricted to just that and my other stuff that I was going and getting up to, which was on my own. And
can I just ask on that then, with your crew, and we'll come back to the Sunday, did you have a totally different social circle you were doing these things with, or were you just in isolation?
That's isolation.
Right, wow.
Yeah, everything was in isolation, and then I was going and I was like hopping over to other countries and doing stuff, and sometimes like DJing or trying to get a gig in between and that, but like having this like this relationship, that was just it's just eating me up, because I was way over my head, like not only with the experiences that I was having, but I was realizing that I'm not that person. That's not me, so kind of going through all this stuff. And to cut to the chase, at Big Chill, like I was having this really nice time with everyone. It got to the Sunday and I went off to the toilet or whatever, and I was coming back and walking down the hill, and then there's three girls, one of them being Viba, Bev, who she was like me, how me and Sneak and Bev, part of the Rain Christian family, touring and everything. She's like my sister, because we just had all these experiences together. We're all the same age, and she was with these two other girls like Mel and Fee. Fee is my now partner, and I met these girls, and they basically, I was like, oh, I'm with Sneak, and they sort of like, right, we're gonna hang out now, and you know, and it was like I'd been craving like an interaction with like girls that were just back on my level. And that's exactly what they are and were, you know, and like having that, we just had like the most amazing time. And I think me and Fee basically just kind of, Bev even was like, oh, let me introduce you to your new husband, or let me introduce you to your future husband. That was it, you know. And it's like, all right. And we spent this time, just had a proper laugh at everything. And it basically, like, I was like, this is where my life should go, and like I'm just gonna fuck off everything, all that old, like I'm gonna ring this person and just say it's over, you know, and I can't see you anymore. Like, best of luck with the rest of your life, bye, and that's it, you know. And it was, I got some really horrible stuff. We all go things, you know, stuff that you have to kind of live with, but everything turned out fine. It was all just words. And yeah, and then me and Fee, within like a couple of months, it turns out like Fee's a drummer with a band called The Whip, a Manchester band called The Whip, right? And I'd seen her doing her thing. I can't tell you, like, for somebody who's into drums, and like, just I didn't, it was just like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden she's in my life, you know, and we just hit it off. And it's so crazy, like our history is, she's from Burnley originally, and like how she came to Manchester, and she's just like this social whirlwind. In fact, I won't say I say hurricane. And her and Bev, and it's like her and Bev have got this ridiculously deep, they're like busy mates, and it's like, okay, Bev, you know, it's kind of like these things where it's deep, mate, and basically just found my future partner. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, and I had to, you know, I had to kind of, you know, we hit it off and everything, and I was like, this is who I want to be with, and it started this reconstruction, you know.
So he said there was two things. Was the first thing the hanging with Scruff and everyone, or is there another thing?
What thing? Because
he said there was two things that kind of happened that kind of got you kind of back to where you needed to be.
Yeah, it was. I suppose it was kind of like seeing Sneak, and spending that time with Chris to just try and have something to stop me from completely derailing. But then,
right, got you.
You know, like bumping into Fee, it was kind of like grabbing onto these last sort of ropes, you know, and it's like I'm either going to go completely off or start pulling myself back in, you know.
Yeah,
that's how it, and it's like me now. This is like nearly 13 years later. You know, I've been rebuilding myself. It's not been a fast process, you know.
Yeah, because I was going to say, so after meeting Fee, then what happened with you musically as you were getting back into being yourself?
Right. So what happened was, Fee's hearing from everybody about who I am, or she'd actually been listening to Fingathing, and it's like, no way, you know, you guys are like heralded as like and you this, and you know, and my self-esteem's gone, you know. I'm like, yeah, really, whatever, you know, just not really seeing it. And that's actually a beautiful thing, you know, to not, and just be humble and just whatever, you know. But this guy, Tom Piper, there's a folk singer called Jessica Hoop, right? And incredible singer, this American lass, and her manager, me and him go way back from experiences, because obviously with Rain Christian and everything, we're talking like not main stage or like other stage stuff at like all festivals all around the world, like all this stuff. So you meet all these peeps. Tom Piper was one, and he knew about my skill set, and he was representing Jessica at the time, and she'd recorded this album which was very production heavy, and he's like, can we have a coffee? And I went and met with him, and Tom's like, well, we're looking for a way to do this live for her to have this sound. He'd pushed a couple of CDs under my door, and I was, you know, like folk what do I know, whatever. I would put these CDs on anyway though, and like her voice is just absolutely incredible, phenomenal even, I mean, like, wow, under my doorstep, what's going on, anyway. And he's like, can you, is there a way that you can think to sort of do this? And I'm like, mate, I could do that. Like, that's not, yeah. And he's like, would you be interested in doing it? And I'm like, yeah. And so I got her records, and what I wanted to present to her was like, you're gonna do your thing, but I'm gonna sample all the raw parts, and I'm gonna rebuild the tracks so that I can play them live for you, but you have that sound that you want, instead of having a drummer and you have to try and get the sound via an engineer, which is incredibly hard, even for one venue, let alone doing a tour and going and expecting to get. So it's like that's like an engineer's idea of hell. But like, if I use the actual recordings and just use, instead of all of them, just a little bit, I can get it sounding so I'm like in the room playing, but that's the exact sound you want, So that's what we did. She got a tour, and Tom had this faith in me. Yeah, and it's that we're gonna go, like, going back to that kind of someone showing faith in me, and that meant a lot. So much so that I'm not gonna turn something down, even though it's a folk singer going and doing this stuff, and I want to introduce an NPC into her lovely acoustic environment. He said yeah. So I went about doing it, and I did it, and then next thing I know, there's this European tour coming up. Dan, we're going to go and do this thing. Ended up playing in David Lynch's club in Paris. Crazy, mate. Down in this, honestly, mate, like, we were going round, but check this. So, on, I think, like, the first date, we'd gone down and done a date down south before we get on the Euro tunnel, to go around Europe. I just woke up first thing in the morning, whatever, like, yeah, let's go. I'd said to myself, this is happening, and you're going to do this, you're going to rise to it, and you're going to make it happen, that kind of thing. And it all was. I went, put my sock on, I felt this ping in my back, yeah? Like, and it wasn't just like your average ping, it was like, and ask any late 30s or, in fact, any tall dude, like, I basically slipped a disc in my back. Yeah. And then we went around Europe for about 6 days. I didn't know this at the time, but we just went on a European tour, and we were all just sat in a van. So, like, sometimes that can be, I don't know whether any of you have driven around Europe, but like in a van like that, the seats don't recline, or, it's very limited as to what you can do. So I wasn't resting. I was just stressing this injury. But we were going and doing these and having these experiences, and it's like, yeah, I'm in a folk band, and ultimately, and even the producers of the album came to the Lynch one, to the Paris show. I didn't go out there because I just felt a bit uncomfortable, and she came, she's like, they're out there, and they listened, and they said that, like, they loved it, they like said, like, what a great job you've done. I'm there, and just kind of get that, and I'm like, oh, like, wicked, that means that I have done it all right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But the tour, nothing was said. The tour ended, and like, it clearly was I don't know how it would have been seen, but that was something that I did. It was like, to kind of keep me involved with music to a certain extent, because I'd lost this faith in cuts and samples. But here's something, so I can utilize sampling kind of nous. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wicked. Yeah. I'm going to do it, and I was offered money for it, and did it, and it was an incredible experience. But yeah, slipped a disc in my back, and then I was out, mate, for like I don't know, like a long time. That was like new, like fresh challenges. But we ended up, like, but off the back of that, me and Sneak were still kind of doing stuff and like, kind of going through this rebuild process. And I heard her singing I Feel Love by Donna Summer, like, while we were on tour one time. I'm like, wow, how can I need that, I need it, don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need it, and then we ended up, I don't know how it happened, we're like, do you want to record it, should we do it? And we did, and and then that happened, and then, like, that got signed to True Thoughts, but unfortunately it took like best part of 3 years to come out. You know, like,
how come?
Because of delays with, like, at their end, you know, like they were putting together a compilation of covers and, you know, acquiring everything that you need when you're a label. It's not about the artist, it's about the label wanting what they want and, you know, and what they need. And there was never any point of like, can we have the tune back? Because that was just like something, you know what I mean? It was something positive.
Yeah, and I suppose if they're doing an album of covers, there's just one thing if there's one thing that where they need to get kind of rights or permissions or anything, it can just keep the whole project delayed on hold.
But at this time, so we're co-producing, like my mate Gaz Seconical, who Woody was talking about, because I went back, I listened to the podcast, so it's amazing. And I always admired his sound. And after working with James Ford and everything, like it was like who can we work with, who's that good? And actually he can, you know. And we built up this like really cool friendship where he was willing to help engineer and like just help me finish stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because Sneak's in Berlin and we've got these bits and everything, but it's like something needs doing, something needs finishing, you know. And but like if you listen, that's the Return of the Thing EP. There's no cuts on it, hardly. It's hardly any, because I just fucking totally lost it, you know. And I was saying to Sneak, like, I've fallen out of love, mate. I've fallen out of love. That was the best way I could put it, you know. Yeah. It's like I didn't realise that was just me talking about my self-esteem. And like how it was directly connected to like my expression in a particular form.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying Once a DJ. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on. So I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com. And if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. If you're an avid collector of timeless music on vinyl but don't have the budget to fork out for those pricey originals, then look no further than Be With Records. From library music to yacht rock, jazz, hip hop, disco and beyond, Be With lovingly reissue some of the coolest classics. All of their records are carefully remastered and cut to the highest standards to make sure the pressings are of peak audio quality and do justice to the music being released. And something else to note is that they don't do limited runs to drive up resale and hype. If the demand is there, they'll repress, as the focus is the music, not the profit margin. They have flat rate shipping and free UK shipping on orders over £60. And if you head to bewithrecords.com and use the discount code ONCEADJ, all one word, you'll get 10% off your order. So head to bewithrecords.com and level up those crates today. But that's like, I'm sure that Clapton will go like 18 months without touching the guitar. Or is it 6 months or something? So like Clapton will go like quite a long time without even touching the guitar. Like, this is the relationship. Like, this is kind of the point. This is the sort of stuff that I want to cover in the podcast, is with people. Like, your relationship with your art isn't necessarily going to be uniform all through life. We fall in and out of love with it, and how do we get pulled back into it? How, you know, all these things. So it's really interesting.
So okay, right. Well, it was absolute fracture. Yeah, absolute. I wasn't touching them, and it was because, like, always my first thought of when I do, it's like, what I do ain't that great. And everybody knows, like, if you want to be a good swordsman, you've got to have sharp tools. You know, you've got to have a decent blade. And it's like, my shit was rusty, you know. But you couple that with some hardcore depression and a fucking galloping come down, and you're like, you know, like trying to have a fucking cut, you know. And it's just like, it just wasn't, you know, wasn't doing it. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward to COVID. Yeah, so. This is like one of the most pivotal things I can think of. But was it COVID, or was it just before that? Anyway, Sneak went through his own life experiences. You know, not everything worked out for him, and he had to kind of find himself, you know, which he has done massively, but in another country. And we've been through just these really deep journeys. And he was then sharing a room with what was the German DMC champion. Like, what? The fucking German yeah, mate, this guy, his name's Robert Smith, or his name's Rick, but it's like this, you know. I'm like, what? You're, you know, sharing room, like what? And he's like, yeah, like this kid, man. He's like, and it's like he's sick, man. He practices so hard, like he just, you know, for hours on end. And I'm like, oh, I love that, and it's just like this old. It's like this old romantic notion. I remember when I used to run home and fucking practice and just keep going and going and going and going. It's going because you want it, because you've got the fucking hunger, you know. And anyway, I go and see Sneak and I meet Rick for the first time, and this guy he's like just so lovely, like and completely open arms, and like, Dan, you want to use my stuff, you can use it all. You just go, you know, like, or what if there's anything you want to do, or if you like to have a cut or something, like your style, like Fingathing. Oh my, you know, like, oh my goodness, like you guys, like honestly, like you guys, you don't even know, you know, or like some of the people, like it's like fucking legendary, you know, all this shit. And I'm like, nice one, mate. That's amazing. You know, like can't believe it. But then like also like shit, man. Like that's ace that this kid's saying that, and also shares a room with Sneak. And hang on, I can use all of the stuff. Being around that, that passion. Like he's like a generator. He's like a passion generator. But like,
I think he's got a new DJ name there.
First EP, passion generation. Anyway, I like this guy, and it just, I don't know. I guess it's that thing. It's like a sort of it was like an introduction, like the modern community, not the community where everyone's afraid of each other. There's all this intimidation and all this fucking shit. Yeah. And you're out there on your own, and anxiety, and I've got no one else, and I'm almost enemy, all this shit. None of that. I'm spending time with Rick, and he's like, Dan, you know, like everything, it's so different now. You know, like everyone's cool with each other and everybody just wants to build, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is dream shit, Rick. I'm like, this is like, I can't tell you how deep this is for me, and like the where I've been, but where I'm at now, and the fact that you're here and you share a room with Sneak, this is crazy. And it was just like this spark. And fast forward to COVID happening, and it was Captain Crunch. So Captain Crunch was doing some stuff with the community scratch guys. He was doing some footage, and he was like, he got in touch basically because he'd been staying with Rick, and he's big into Fingathing. Like, oh, that's amazing! Like, no way, you know. And we got chatting, and he sent me this message saying, we're going to do a COVID video for DJs around the world because we're on lockdown, but to show a community, a show sort of strength in community, have everybody back to back, so you get like 20 seconds or whatever over a beat. The world's sickest, like, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, you're asking me, like, I don't know whether I'm up to it, mate. And he's like, you totally are. Like, you've been doing this stuff, you know. And I'm like, okay, you know, okay, I'll give it a go. So, you know, he sent me the beat, and it was 75. It was like, it was an Oslo Flow beat. And I listened to it, I'm like, oh shit, because I just hadn't, you know, I hadn't gone over that tempo for so long. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'm doing it, you know, like, just, I'm doing it. Just bear with me. I'm a bit broken, just trying to be honest with him and telling all his stuff. And he's like, nah, you can do it, man, you know. So that was it. I sort of hyper-focused with this thing, and I like went in there and I practiced harder than I ever had, like, because I was inspired, you know. And I sent it in, and then, like, you know, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, whatever, this video comes with all these killers in it, and then there's me, you know, like doing a little bit. I'm like, shit, man, it sounds fucking good. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's just all these things, and yeah, like, and it's just like a complete neutralization. You know, after going and doing all this stuff, I've been brought right back to like ground level, and everything that inspires me and that I get inspired by now. I'm not watching videos and shit, or if I am, they're just my mates. All the people that I surround myself with, because like the Battlestar Mancunia as well. Reform Radio, this they were going to start, this is like 2014 or whatever. My mate Johnny Dub, he lives in Japan now, and they were all chatting, and we were in this car, and they were talking about like, oh, you should do a show where it's like a crew, you know, with like of you lot, you know. And we're like, who? Like, oh, Danny Dreyfus, Jamie Groofman, like Parker, you know, G Cut, and I'm like, God, man, that's crazy. And we all met to chat about it, and I'm like, guys, like, I can't tell you, like, I want to be part of this so badly, but I am not gonna be able to do it by myself, you know. Like, I don't know what you think, but I have these challenges, you know, and I didn't know what anything was at that time, but I was just trying to be honest with them, and everyone was like, oh, come on, because we're all old mates, you know. And we started this thing, and which we went on to name Battlestar Mancunia, and again, like, just my friends and like this ground zero things. Like, I DJ'd with these guys back in the day or whatever at times, but not spent actual real quality time. But these DJs and everything ended up being like my now best friends, you know, like along with like Sneak and Chris, and you know, I guess just having that ethos, you know, of like practicing does make you better. And it's like, man, I've got these tools. They're pretty sick, you know. They're fucking rusty, but I tell you what, you know, if you sharpen them up, you know. And that's how it's been since that COVID point. And but you know, and I'm a father now. And
so you were saying to me the other day that there was kind of a process you had to go through to get to the point of having your daughter.
So me and Fee are, you know, having the like starting to build a life together, and Kiva comes along, and you know, she was like this gigantic ray of hope, genuine hope that's not attached to anything, you know, like this thing. Who I want to be the best dad. I want to be the best dad ever. What do I need to do? You know, like, I want her to, you know, to see that I am something, not like, oh, creme brulee is these old things from years ago, you know, but I don't do any of that anymore, or I'm not, you know, I don't, you know, whatever. It's like, nah, I want to be who everybody wants me to be, you know. But it's like, yeah, having Kiva, and so it all just went really bad when Kiva's 2, and me and Fee, because she's a drummer, we've got a thing called Flex that we do, which is like her, so kind of techno and house, and I'm in her territory but doing my thing, and we've found this really nice little avenue, and we're doing some gigs and that, and we've got a gig at Beat Herder, and it's an hour. We're just doing the line check. It's an hour before we've got to go on. And Fee gets this phone call from her sister. And basically, her dad had passed away, like, just out of the blue, you know. And the relationship that I built with this guy was like, I can't tell you how much it meant, you know, and how much I loved him. And it was just so like seismic, and like we did the gig, we were like chatting, and he wanted us to do the gig, so we did it, and it was like this fucking crazy experience. But then like the next few months of like, you know, like chaos, you know, like, because just everything's just complete chaos. That's all I can put it. And my lack of control over any of this, it was when my anxiety came to the fore. In its like, I saw like the true sort of power and sort of devastation of something that had been lying underneath, dormant inside me, whatever that may be, or the different events that I've had in my life, and different elements of trauma and stuff, I just it was complete emotional loss. Like, I wake up in the morning and just start crying, like, and I've got a family. What are you gonna do? It's like, I've got a family in these reins to keep hold of, and oh mate, it's like the hardest time in my life ever. And I'd already had some like trials and tribulations and things that actually, like, oh yeah, whatever, dealing with these things, these experiences, like slipping a disc, yeah, whatever, all pain, different things, but like this kind of like complete loss of everything. It was like this new. By this time I got like tinnitus, and all, and like 24/7 and all this, and like, oh, I don't know, just like such despair, mate. But in that it's kind of like, it was like, I don't know, like a complete sort of neutralization, because how do I come back from this? Do you know what I mean? And I tried various things. I was like, people were talking about microdosing, with all these things, and what actually, so I tried, and I was getting no answers. I was like masking something still, but you're not getting no answers. Anyway, got in touch with the doctor and got chatting, and eventually came to the point where it's like, right, I think a course of antidepressants just while you're like at this very acute stage, and some cognitive behavioral therapy, and the antidepressants actually helped to kind of level me out, like that's exactly what it did. It was just kind of that playing field that it was all just absolutely chaotic. It was like, oh, okay, so what else do I need to do? Right, do this therapy,
How did you find that? Did you find it easy to share? I mean, because for me with this interview, you're a hugely open book. Have you become like that after therapy, or have you always been like that?
It's always been there. I've just never had the opportunity to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same with you now, and like this, and like, so I'm having this chat. I ain't even got to the Russians yet, mate. Like, this is like it's like Pulp Fiction or something. I'm going to have to kind of jump back, but anyway, so I'm having CBT therapy with this guy down the phone, and after a few sessions, he's sending me these, he's listening, he's like, I think, you've lost your self-esteem, it's gone, and he's like, we're talking about experiences, and he's like, can you just tell me what evidence you've got to back up all this stuff that you're saying? All these things that you're saying about yourself, what evidence have you got to prove this? And I'm like, I haven't got any. And he's sending me these pamphlets, like, it's like, shit, man, this might actually be what's happening, And I'm like, oh, so there is also this thing, like, I've been asked to do a documentary in Russia with these Russian guys about music in Moscow. They want me to go over and be part of this documentary. This guy's laughing down the phone, and he's like, so are you going to do it? And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, who's going to turn down? It's like, it's the opportunity of a lifetime, isn't it? I mean, who's going to turn that down? So, yeah, like a few months later, as soon as this was in the early days of the COVID, before the hyper lockdown, where countries were locked for a bit, but then opened the doors again, like naively or whatever. The same thing happened in Moscow, in Russia. And I'd met these dudes in Wally Range, right? These guys got in touch on Facebook, and they're like, we're here making a documentary called Landscape of Music about British music culture and the historic music that's come out of all these cities, and Manchester's very special. Can we come and talk to you? I'm like, yeah, all right, I live here. If you come here, then fair enough, and next thing I know, like, these Russian dudes have all cycled. They're on bikes. They bought bright bikes with them. They're fucking biking. They're biking everywhere, And so I go across the road and I'm in Wally Range and I'm in Alex Park, and then these guys set the stuff up and they're like, "Can we interview you?" I'm like, "Yeah." Now, bear in mind, this is just before the chaos. Yeah, this is just before the chaos. But my self-esteem, everything was what it was, a bit fractured. But the questions that they asked were like, what is music for you? Just this stuff where it went beyond and deeper than any esteem or any. It's just like this stuff cut like, and they're filming me, and I think my eyes lit up when they asked these questions because I'm rekindling that, like, what it is. It's this romance. It's this love. It's this everything, and so I kind of paint this picture as part of this. I end up inviting them over the road because I told them I've got all these Russian punk records. They're like, "No way!" Like, "Yeah, mate, I've got some Russian stuff." I ran over and brought it, and then it ended up inviting them over, and then did an NPC thing in my kitchen for them. They're like, "Oh, you had NPC?" And I'm like, "Yeah, mate, come on." And I start doing so, like, "Can we film you doing it?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." And then sorted them out and whatnot, and that was the last I'd heard of it. We just parted ways. And so during my absolute anxiety blowout, Fee's like, "Dan, you've got to get the hell out of here. You've got to get the hell out of here. Like, go and stay with Sneak in Berlin, have some time, just try and neutralise." The Russians had been in touch and they're like, we've made the film, and it's going to be premiered in London. Can you make it at this time? And the way that everything fell, unfortunately, this was the time when I was repairing in Berlin, I rang my mate Stefan, who lives in London. He's one of the few people that I have actually stayed in contact with over these years, and would be honest, because he lives in London. So it's like, I could just bare my soul and tell him, he's like, "Oh, Dan, I hope you're all right." And he knows the lengths that I'd gone to with my exploration of self. And I said, "Can you go and just tell these guys like that I'm dope and I'd love to work with them and all this stuff, whatever. Just, tell them I'm good for it, like this, And he's like, okay. And Stefan, like, he went and met these dudes, and then he left this message. It's like, "Dan, you've got to see this documentary. Like, you've got to see this. It's like, you come through, and these guys want to speak to you, like, about something." I'm like, "Oh, they sent me a link, and I couldn't watch it. I couldn't click on it. I couldn't bear to."
You couldn't find it in yourself to do it?
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
What was stopping you? Was it fear?
Previous experiences, a fear, a shyness, I didn't want to see like how I was going to be portrayed on there because I'm unhappy. I have this deep unhappiness and all this stuff, and I'm lost, mate. And like, even though I've got all these beautiful things around me, like my kid and my family and everything, it's deeper. I don't know, but this anxiety and and my loss of self-esteem, and anyway, I clicked on it, and and it goes to this bit, and there I am, talking, and I'm watching myself, and I just break down, mate. I just fucking, always with the emotion, I'm a sensitive guy. I cry with laughter. Like, I'm that guy, tears everywhere. I can't help myself. Again, like, I'm watching myself, and I'm like, shit, man, this is a beautiful thing. And then how it turns out is like, the audience in Russia, and how they'd received me, I was like popular, even though on this documentary with all these people, like really big heads and all these various things, there was something about me that connected, or there was some kind of connection, so much so that these guys were basically like, "We want you to come out to Moscow, be part of the film crew for another documentary about underground Moscow, music in Moscow. We want you to do the soundtrack. yeah, but just using sounds that you find in the city. That's, do you want to do it?
That's a great brief, innit?
It's a great brief, mate. It's so great, in fact, that, and then fast forward, I'm on antidepressants and I'm lost, but again, the call comes, are you going to do it? And I did. I went and did it, and Fee, bless her, like, she, supported me in doing that.
Did it take a lot to commit to doing that then at that time?
What, to just go to another country where I don't speak any other language and be part of a film crew? Oh yeah, and by the way, do all the soundtrack. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's like
whilst you're in a big period of self-repair.
Yeah, while I'm while I'm on antidepressants and I can't fucking I'm having real trouble functioning, and it was just another one of these like pivotal things, like this snapshot in time. I went out for like 3 weeks with these guys I'd only met once, got a little bit like tated with, and had like a nice time, but I knew there was something about them. When I was doing it, I was like, we're all gonna meet again, saying to these dudes, whenever it's like, like, yeah, whatever, but it happened, it happened. And anyway, so I went and did this, and so going digging in Moscow, going around with it's on Instagram. People, if you want to see like my experiences, like you can sort of see a snapshot of it from that time on Instagram if you go back through the history, because I was trying to document it all, like what you were saying about a DJ in today's climate or whatever. Okay, if I've got to do this certain stuff, if people want to see me, they're going to see everything or nothing. Do you know what I mean? And that's that, like you say, that open book mentality. I think that's real, and that's the truth. And I'm not trying to polish anything, or do you know what I mean? I'm not I'm just myself. Yeah.
Incredible. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying Once a DJ. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show, and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on. So I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com. And if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. If you're an avid collector of timeless music on vinyl but don't have the budget to fork out for those pricey originals, then look no further than Be With Records. From library music to yacht rock, jazz, hip-hop, disco and beyond, Be With lovingly reissue some of the coolest classics. All of their records are carefully remastered and cut to the highest standards to make sure the pressings are of peak audio quality and do justice to the music being released. And something else to note is that they don't do limited runs to drive up resale and hype. If the demand is there, they'll repress, as the focus is the music, not the profit margin. They have flat rate shipping and free UK shipping on orders over £60. And if you head to bewithrecords.com and use the discount code ONCEADJ, all one word, you'll get 10% off your order. So head to bewithrecords.com and level up those crates today. So what came next after Russia then? Were you? Did it have a big effect on like your self work? Did it go some way to quote unquote repairing you?
So the brief that they gave me and what I actually did, were two quite different things. My relationship and the times that I was going back and forth with Sneak, and now started practicing with Robert Smith, and we're like, this whole regeneration, and I'm like, I know that I can do this stuff, but it is like this kind of repair process. And I made these tunes, and I said to myself, right, the soundtrack is me, the stuff I make while I'm there, that's the soundtrack. Once I'm done, that's it. I've got to put it to bed, And then they got to the point where they're like they want to finish the film. They're like, can we have the stuff you've made? And I sent it to them, and it only came to 20 minutes. They're like, Dan, this is a 2-hour soundtrack. We have to have more. And I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, that's, you know, my time, like, that's it. That equates to 20 minutes. That's my experience. That's how, you know, saw my arse. And I was a dick, because that was like, I sort of, like, it was me kind of being immature and not thinking about the bigger picture. Anyway, had a few hours to actually think, got back to him, apologized. I'm like, give me 3 days. And then I ended up handing him like 35 different pieces of music. All this stuff, it's all sat there. I haven't done anything with it yet, because Moscow, well, you know what happened in Russia, you know, like COVID, everyone's losing their marbles. I'm recollecting mine. You know, I didn't have the same experiences as everyone else. I'm actually in this state of repair while the chaos is ensuing everywhere else. So strange for me, mate. So different. And I went digging, and I'm just like, so I'm in Russia, like buying, you know, like going digging, like just buying all this shit, mate, this stuff, and then like dudes just giving me records, like the stuff that you've never, I have no idea what I'm looking at, all this Soviet era stuff, like some dudes like and big diggers and that around the world know all about that shit. But again, it's like me just being like, no, I'll go in, I can do something, it's like having faith in the universe, you know what I mean, like happy accidents. Everything I do, it just seems, and it's like, you know, like my spirit animal is like a jellyfish, and that's exactly how it's like. I don't, if I'm just cool and I think positively, it happens. Yeah. So it's like getting back to that point where it's like I'm myself again. It's like, you know, I can make shit happen if I work hard enough, you know, and that's all that had gotten lost was like the work flow, the work rate and the passion and, you know, and all that. And yeah, and I don't know what to do with all that stuff, because like Russia went to war. So I felt really uncomfortable, went through this whole period where all the directors and everything, their lives are in chaos. Tragic shit, mate. Like they were dreaming of that documentary taking them elsewhere in the world where they can go and do another documentary and do, you know, that's how we were talking. It's like, Dan, we want you to come and do another one. Where are we going to go next? Like Japan or what was this? We were talking like Japan or Turkey or something like these places. And I'm like, wow, you know, like, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's go, you know. But they had this big deal on the table and everything. I thought at one point, like, this is my ticket. I'm going to be massive in Russia, guys. Like, who knows, you know what? Okay, you know what I mean? And but then what happened, and it just destroyed everything. You know, destroyed lives, destroyed, you know, the future, unfortunately. And again, it was just like another experience where I put everything in, but it just crumbled, unfortunately, because life's not always, you know, great.
So after that, were you able to kind of deal with that in more of a robust way than you would have done previously, whereas you would have maybe gone, oh, it's not meant to be, I'm not good enough, X, Y, or Z? Were you able to be like, this isn't me, this is just out of my control, let's crack on with another project?
Yeah. So it's kind of like if I've got something to work to, like a concept or something, it's game over, because it's almost like that's the key for my kind of hyper focus. Like I now know that I have this shit. I've always had it, but now I know what it is. It's like such a strange thing, you know, but like if I have the passion mixed with the belief, I really can come up with the goods, you know. It's not my technical know-how, because I don't have any. You know, I'm just like a kid in a sweet shop with all the sounds and everything, and I like that's how it is. It's like happy accidents and fun, and you can make shit, you know, you can, and I now realise that like all of that stuff, that chemistry kind of contributes to something which is slightly different than what other people do, because you're doing it in a different way. That's all it is. If someone had said that to me like however back, you know, it might have like, I just couldn't work that out for myself, you know. And it doesn't matter, I'm not bitter about it, because I know that like all of that and all that pain and everything that I've gone through is now my energy. It's now like the one thing that I channel into everything because I've lived it. I've you know, and it's like just coming back to this kind of ground zero, and that's again like that's where the passion for the sort of community, because and the inspiration, they're all just it's all within reach. Do you know what I mean? You just got to be willing to do it, you know. And the community stuff, it's not about going and playing to 6,000 people and getting like 800 quid and like, you know, fucking 32 crates of fucking whatever. It's none of that. It's about them wanting me to be there. That's it. If they want me to be there, then I am there. And I'm not only there, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the goods. It's like, and that, I guess that's, you know, that's my fuel. Do you know what I mean? Like Tom Peanuts and even the beat makers in Manchester, they're like, would you be, you know, it's like, you're, you know, you've been doing this thing forever, you know, would you come and do it? I'm like, if you want me to come and do it, I would fucking love that. Like, there's this community event called Working on It, which is for the beat makers. And it's like, I've been around the block and, you know, but I haven't put anything down. It's all still there, you know, and it's like coming back, but just having this new lease, because I just want to be down with everything that's happening now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because I still feel like a kid that can contribute everything that it's, you know, and that's life as an artist, isn't it? I don't feel like it's been and gone. Nothing. It's all still there for the taking, and I just
I mean, it sounds like you're in a really good place now, and you're at peace with how things work, if that's the right way of putting it, you know. Yeah, so the other thing that would be good for us to talk about then is your diagnosis of ADHD and that process, really. So if you could tell me what that's been like, that would be really interesting to know.
All right, so, yeah. My partner, Fee, she started to read me like little testimonials and little things about people on Facebook and various other sort of socials, like about just troubles that they were having, or like experiences in their life that make them feel like certain ways, like that whole thing about like self-worth and, you know, feeling a bit like the odd one out, or like feeling like quite alone. And like she was reading me this one time that this dude had said, and it brought me to tears. And again, it was just like that expression, because it just struck this raw nerve. And I'm like, that's me. That's so strange, you know. And then I think subsequently Fee started to do more and more research, and then, you know, she'd be like, Dan, like, I think you're ADHD, you know. I'm not hyper, like I am sometimes, but it's not like my how I am. I prefer to be. I'm just like, well, not prefer, but I'm just more chilled. But up here in my brain, it is hyper all the time. And I'd already got this diagnosis of like anxiety and that, and then it turns out that they can be interlinked, you know. So like I just got to this point where I'm like, everything I'm reading about, I want to know now. I want to know, because like my life's been pretty did they say tumultuous, or like pretty like like rock and roller coasty, whatever, roller coasty. And I got onto my doctor, and I was like, look, you know, can you help? I wanna find out whether I'm like neurodiverse. You know, I already have these things going on. And he's like, well, I'm gonna send you like a quick test that will sort of shine a light on what happens next. So they did, and then after I did that, like literally it wasn't that long, and I got this referral, you know. And I want to say, like, I'm sorry that some people who've been like on waiting lists for ages to find this information out, like I'm sorry that you got to go through that, because like I now realize like that it means a lot, you know. Because when it came to the point of me finding out, I got put onto this website and all these various things to fill in, where you have to give examples of your behavior, but not just as an adult, but as a child. So and this is only a couple of months ago. And what that did was just open, like me saying to you, like how I'm quite insular and wouldn't share this stuff. I'm willing to, but just never had the platform. But so I start going through my own memories of what I'm like, and it's getting really upsetting because I'm like, there's real patterns here. Holy shit! I might actually there might be something going on. Like I'm 47, yeah, like I've gone through these years, like I've navigated. Fee's like, she's like, you've done so well to get as far as you have, like having these challenges or whatever. And I'm like, and when I went through that period of like the anxiety and everything, and it was like I say, like I suppose, like just being privy to like the fear, like the most extreme fear, because it's only you can conjure that type of fear. Like how you have people who are like, I'm scared of nothing, mate, or that type of perspective. It's like, yes, you are. Yeah. There's something in there. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all your own creation. I said to myself, I've got to tell people about this because I don't want other people to have to experience what I'm experiencing, particularly DJs and, like people who, it's like, it's supposed to be a laugh, but like, it's deeper because I guess I'm an artist. It's just DJing was my first outlet, but like a creative or whatever you want to call it, but just like that thing about exploration and your mental like adventure and wanting to find things and do whatever it is. It's like I realized that like the ADHD and this anxiety / depression, they've always been there. They've always been inside me, from birth. It's just that I've kind of got through life and these things have happened and here I am now. But like this shit is so important and so massive that like I think statistically and everything that people see about like, it's real. And if people don't talk about it and don't share these experiences, it's like, I can't bear the thought of somebody else having to suffer like I did or like I have, and it's not over. It's still here. It's just I've had to learn to integrate it into my life so that I have these signs. It's all about awareness and having these signs and knowing like, oh, I'm feeling this particular way. It could be because of that. It's not. It's just that's how you feel. You can let it go, but it's like it is the awareness of all these things, and there are a lot of them. That it's important to kind of monitor and be mindful. But this is my approach now of me wanting to be the best me. When I leveled that playing field and started my process of like rebuilding myself, I don't know, I feel it's like I feel like I'm in my lane. So if I'm not doing all the ultra bad stuff and I have got my family around me and I am getting the inspiration from all my friends and I am practicing, I am focusing, with that comes this positivity which is infectious, and I know that it's traveling around the world because I'm getting messages and I'm doing things. I'm doing cuts for hip-hop tracks. I'm doing like all this, there's so much stuff that I'm doing, and it's all because I started thinking positively again, but it's you have to kind of just keep that fire burning. And it's like if you go to a community event, you can see that fire in plain sight for nothing. You know what I mean? It's not about paying like 20 quid to go and see this guy who sold bare records, to go and watch him stand there and do practically nothing. You go like down to somewhere like the hip hop chip shop or whatever, and you can see something for nothing which you would want to pay money for, and like get that inspiration, and that's it. And it's what I'm surrounding myself with, and I think it's coming back out. Do you know what I mean? And it's this thing, and it's like being part of this community that I always wanted. I'm exactly where I always wanted to be. It's mental. That's
brilliant to hear, and thank you for sharing that, because I think anything with self-work, it's not about what's been in the past. It's about just regardless of what it is a hard thing to do. Go through your past and relook at it with this kind of adult lens, with the parental lens. So I respect it whenever anyone's doing any sort of self work and just, you know, looking at their situations and stuff. So good on you for that. So just to kind of get up to date then, what's coming up for you then? Is it more Fingathing?
Yeah, so everything always comes back to Fingathing. It's like, but like it has to be done with the respect that it deserves, and it has to be like, we were never ever going to go down that road where like the music starts to get slightly whacker and then just disappear. It was never that, you know. Yeah. It's like if when all we need to do is document exactly where we're at now, because it's a good place. But however, the process of doing that, we know exactly what we want and how we want it to be. So all we've got to do is spend the time facilitating that, and that's an ongoing thing. Like, and pretty much my life now is just about like the beat community and the scratch community, because I believe that the two are pretty interlinked, you know. So I did this community scratch North as part of the community scratch games, like all that crew. I did that with Nick NCK, and but wanted to have all my working on it crew come and provide beats. So it isn't just scratching over loopers and all these things, which I think does happen a lot, and I get it because that's what you do. But it's like I have this like, it's like I've got my hands in these different community pies, and I just, everything, the more we get together, the more we can build. And it's basically you're rewriting history to the way you want it to be, because all these big companies and stuff that all the DJs do stuff for and that, they're not putting on these events. Do you know what I mean? They're you've got the little competition or like these little things. It's like they could do that, you know, but instead I found this crew of people that are doing it for themselves, and I love that. They're doing it for the community, and it's like, yeah, that speaks to me in so many volumes that like I'm committed, you know, I'm down, and that stuff's popping up all over the place. Some of it I don't know whether I can talk about because I don't know whether it's been made public yet, but there is so much stuff going on, mate, and I'm saying yes to everything. That's my kind of standpoint, because I have that I guess I've got that self-belief back. So along with that, I want to take everything with me, and everything that's helped me to get back to this point, I want to respect it and just keep building going forward, you know, and that will come through in all different types of music. I was in Senegal, in January. I went and did this thing for the British Council, like this workshop, like DJ workshop, like over 5 days, teaching these kids. I didn't even have a translator. Mate. Got there and they all speak Wolof, which is like a mixture of French and Arabic. So got there and it's like I'm thinking about like tricolore French, you know, like "Comment t'appelles-tu?" or "Je m'appelle Dan," you know. Scratch DJ, whatever. They're just like, well, you don't speak French. I'm like, you know, I nearly had an anxiety attack. You know, these like over 20 kids in the studio all coming in just going bonkers, all so excited, you know, and I got to do a little thing, and I can't speak to anyone because no one understands. But like again, it's just like jumping right in the deep end with something. But the upshot of what came out of that, I met this MC. The girl that I was there, who was like doing Ableton workshops, Mel, we've now started working, we're doing tunes with Mo. He rhymes in Wolof, so I've been doing like making electro. This guy's skill level, mate, and you've never heard anything like it. Like, who's, you know,
amazing.
Yeah, and so all these little things, I'm going having these experiences, and now instead of like, I don't know, instead of shutting myself away, I'm actually grabbing everything as hard as I can, because this is my time, you know, and this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. It's just I thought it was all coming on a plate, and it doesn't, you know. but I've paid my dues and I am working hard now. So it's kind of like I'm sounding better than I ever have, and my cuts and everything, all the beat, everything that I'm making, it's like, and I'm excited, you know.
That's awesome. Right. We've probably done about 65 hours of audio.
Sorry,
now.
Sorry about that.
No, it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and once again, I really appreciate how open you've been.
Thank you. Thank you.
The sort of questions I ask at the end, generally, you've kind of covered around art and passion and things like that. So if we bring it to an end, then just the one last thing I'd just like to ask you is, where's best for people to get in touch with you and find you on the internet?
Instagram is like so mobile phones are basically, if you've got like ADHD or something like that, it's your worst enemy, and it's like it's tough anyway for everybody, and like because they take up so much of your time and that, but like that's the one thing where I go on and I try to engage and keep up with friends and see what everyone else is doing and be part of that thing. So yeah, like Dan Peter Parker Baxter, that's me on Insta, and then Fingathing, you can check on Spotify and everywhere else.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for chatting and sharing your story, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, mate. Top one. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk.